Okay, hello. So I'm going to go over this, or a few of them, solve each equation. So we're going to identify the variable, which is x in this case, and we need to make sure we're following order of operation. So PIMDAS. So if I'm writing it down, if you could please write it down. So parentheses, exponents, multiply, I should write multiply, division, addition, and subtraction. Okay, so we're gonna follow these. So the first thing we're gonna do is combine like terms. So the negative 4x and the negative 6x, we're gonna end up with negative 4 and negative 6 is negative 10, and we just put the variable there, and then we bring down the negative 20. So we can think of the x as, we can say anything, right? We could say x can stand for laptops. So I have negative 4 laptops and then minus negative 6 laptops. So I end up with negative 10 laptops. It's a variable, it's just a value that's unknown. And then the next thing is order of operations. So we wanted to get x by itself. So the operation that's happening between the 10 or negative 10 and the x is multiplication. There's an invisible multiplication between these two. So we have to do the opposite. The opposite of multiplication is division. So I'm going to divide both sides by negative 10. Whatever I do to one side, I do to the other side. So this negative 10 and negative 10 will turn to 1. And negative 10 into negative 20, 10 will go into 10 will go into 20 two times, and the negative and the negative will be a positive. So I'll end up with 2 is equal to x, or if I want to write it neatly, I'll just switch the places around, x equals 2. We want to go ahead and square in our answer, that way we know that's our final solution. So similar thing here on number 3. We're going to combine like terms. We can identify, I'll do it in a different color. We can identify that the variable here is x. So I'm gonna move the 7x over to the left side over here, because there's more x's on this side. So in order to get x to the other side, I'm gonna have to do the inverse operation. And the opposite of addition, right? Addition's happening right here. The opposite of addition is subtraction. So I'm going to go minus 7x, and whenever I do to one side, do the other side, minus 7x. I'm going to get rid of this. Let me redo this. Minus 7x. And now this goes away, turns to 0, and then I can bring down everything else. So it'll be, my new equation will look like this. Oops. It'll be 8x minus 7x, right? So if I have 8 and I subtract 7, then it'll just be 1. So there's an invisible 1 in front of the x. We typically don't write it for styling purposes. So I'll just write x minus 2 equals negative 9. Are we done? No, because x is not by itself. So we have to do the inverse operation of subtraction, because there's subtraction happening between the x and the 2. So the next thing I'm going to do is add, right? Addition's the inverse operation of subtraction. So I'm going to add 2 to both sides, okay? And the negative 2 and the positive 2 will just go to 0. And then negative 9 and positive 2 will be negative 7. So I'll write x equals negative 7. And you know what? I'm kind of crowded right here, so I'm going to move it up over here. X equals negative 7. All right, so there's 2 done. Going on to the next one. You know what? Number 5 is very similar. So is number 7. Number 9 gets more complicated. So I'm going to do number 9. I'll go back to blue. So in this case, I have the distribution happening. So this negative will be distributed. So let's start there. This is number 9, by the way. We're doing number 9. So I'm going to distribute. I'm just going to bring down negative 8, bring down the equals, and now I'm going to distribute this negative to the x and the negative to the positive 4. So I'm going to end up with negative x minus 4. again, we want x by itself. So I'm going to do the inverse operation of subtraction here to get rid of this 4 and move it to the other side. So I'm going to add 4 to both sides. Okay, this will cancel, and I will end up with negative 8 plus 4 is negative 4. I'm going to bring down this negative x. And something else that we can do is multiply both sides by negative 1. So multiply by negative 1, multiply by negative 1. Why are we doing that? Because then we will end up with a positive x is equal to negative 4. Okay, oops, that's a mistake. Negative 1 times negative 4 will be positive 4. So that's our final answer there. Number 11 is very similar to number 9. All right, so I won't do number 11. Number 13, I'm going to go over this one right now. Going back to green. So it's very similar. Instead of distributing a negative this time, we're distributing this 6. Okay, so it'll be like this. Now, in this case, I'm going to go bring down everything first. And now I'm going to go 6 times 1 is simply 6. 6 times 3 is going to be 18. And there's a k, so I have to bring the k as well. And k's are variable in this case. Recall that we're looking to get k or our variable by itself. In this case, there's more k's on the right-hand side, so I'll be moving this k over to this side. Okay, so how are we going to do that? We have to do the inverse operation that's happening, and the operation that's happening on this side is what is it? It's subtraction between the 18 and the 16. Let me undo these things. All right, so let's go plus 6x and then plus 6. I'm sorry, k. K is a variable. All right, and we're going to end up getting rid of that. It'll go to 0. I'll bring down my negative 18 is equal to 6. And then it's going to be 18 plus 6, which is 24. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. 24k. All right, so are we done? No, because k, our variable, is not by itself. So the next thing we have to do right here is get rid of this 6. How do we do that? We're going to subtract it. And why don't I get rid of the 24 first, right? You might be wondering, why not? It's because the 24 is basically attached to the k, and we're going to have to do the inverse of what's happening. Recall 24 times k is what's actually happening, but there's an invisible thing there. If that didn't make sense, it's okay. It'll come along as we do more of these practice problems. So again, the first thing we're going to do is subtract 6 from both sides. This will disappear. It'll just be 0. And then I'm going to write over here so that way I have some room. Negative 18 minus 6 will be 24. Negative 24, excuse me. Negative 24. So I'm done with this side. Now I'm just going to add my right side of the equation, which is positive 24k. All right, our last thing to do is divide. Why? Because the operation between the 24 and the k is multiplication. So I'm going to divide by both sides by 24. And how many times does 24 go into negative 24? Just negative 1. Negative 1 times. I bring down my k. If I don't like the way it looks, I can just change the positions of it. And there we go. K is equal to negative 1. So number 15 is very similar to number 13. Let's see. I got 17. All right. I'll do 17 and 19. So number 17. So in this case, I'm distributing everything first. So this negative will go to the 1. The negative will go to the 7x. And now this negative 6 will go to the negative 7. And this is like multiplying what's going to be happening. This just distribution here. All right, and there's several ways to get to the answer, but I'm just going to go with the most direct way to get there. So I'm going to go -1 minus, because negative and positive is negative, -1, and plus is negative, and then bring the 7x down, and now -6 and -7. Let me pause here. I know I'm going quickly. Whenever there's a negative multiplied by negative, it's going to equal to positive. Whenever I have a positive multiplied by a positive, it's going to equal to positive. Whenever I have a positive multiplied by negative, it's going to equal to negative. So write that in the notes. I'm going to erase it because I'm running out of room here. But that's an important concept. You can always pause the video to take time to write down your notes. Okay, so -6 and -7. What is that? 7. Is it 42? I think so. So 6 and 7, but there's a negative. Or it's negative times negative, so it's positive. So positive, I'm going to confirm that it's 42. I'm going to practice my multiplications myself. Yeah, it's 42. All right, plus 42. All right, and then -6 times -x. So I'm going to end up with a positive again. And 6x. All right, and I'm going to bring down the 36. Okay, so what's the variable? It's x. So I can even underline the like terms here. This is a little strategy, and then I can do like little circles around just the numbers. Why am I doing that? To help me identify the like terms. So I know I have to combine my like terms, right? So I know the -7x is going to be multiplied by 6x, right? -7 and +6 is just -x. And now I have a -1 plus a 42. So what's 42 minus 1? It's positive 41. And bring down the 36 from the other side. Now I have to do the inverse operation happening between these two, this variable and this number, which is subtraction. So I'm going to go -41. Whatever I do to one side, I do to the other, -41. I end up with, what is that? I end up with 5, -5. So I'm going to start working over here. Minus x, because there was a negative here. So I'm going to go minus x is equal to -5. All right, so now I have -x and -5, but I want it to be positive x. So I'm going to go multiply by -1 on one side, multiply by -1 to the other side. Whatever do to one side I do to the other, I end up with x equals to 5, because -5 times -1 is just 5. I'm going to box in my answer. All right, let's see. All right, last one. All right, so I'm going to go, what is this? I'm going to distribute first. So this -4 to both of these. So I'm going to go -4 times 1 is -4. And -4 times -6a is positive. 4 times 6 is 24. Bring my variable down, a. So I end up with all that on my right side. I'm just going to bring down whatever I have on my left side. And continue the problem here. So, uh-oh. Is that right? Well, it looks right. Yeah, this is a weird one. So, in this case, I'm going to subtract 24 from both sides. So, minus 24a, minus 24a. So, the 24a and the 24a will cancel on both sides here. I'll end up with -22 is equal to -4. So why did that happen? Because the problem was made this way. In this case, it's no solution. And if you show your teacher your work, she will have to agree with you, because whenever we basically when we subtract the total value of variables to the total value of variables, so -24 like this and 24, we just end up with 0, so our variables go away. and we know that negative 22 does not equal to negative 4, right? So we could just write no solution. You can show your teacher the work, and she will agree with you. So something else I wanted to show you is, let's go back to number 1. So on number 1, we can see that our answer is x equals 2. Here is ChatGPT, right? The correct way of using it would be put in your answer and then combine like terms. It shows you step by step. Combine like terms on the right hand side. So we have, too bad I don't have a highlighter here, but on the right hand side, negative 4x and negative 6x, when they combined it equals to negative 10x. And then it shows us that we have to divide, right? We're going to move to negative 10 to the other side. We end up with negative 20 over negative 10, and then x equals 2. So it shows us step by step how to do the problem. So please utilize the online resources that are available to you now. Of course, under parental guidance, parental / guardian guidance. Okay, thank you. Please try and complete the other side of this and all the other ones I didn't do. All right.